Have you ever loved something until somebody decided to make it even better, new and improved? The restaurant that changed its recipe, the software update that made everything harder to find, the website that somehow became less user friendly after spending tens of thousands of dollars on a redesign, the airline that replaced customer service with an AI chatbot that just keeps apologizing but never solves anything. I think we've all had that moment. You're staring at the screen and thinking, who exactly asked for this? Who asked for this? Companies, they call it innovation, but customers, they call it, hey, can I have the old version back, please? But here's what fascinates me. The same thing happens inside of organizations. Some companies, they spend millions trying to make employees happier with new break rooms, unlimited snacks, mental health apps, employee appreciation day, another engagement survey, another initiative, and one more committee. Yet Gallup continues to report that employee engagement remains stubbornly low across much of the workforce. So here's my question. What if we've been in trying to improve the wrong thing? This isn't just happening in business, it's happening everywhere. In schools, governments, churches, politics, even families. Whenever something begins to struggle, our instinct is almost always the same. Add another program, create another rule. Let's hire a consultant. No, let's buy another app or launch another initiative. We become experts at adding, but we almost never ask, what should we remove? Sometimes the obstacle isn't a lack of motivation, it's simply too much organizational clutter. Now, years ago, I became fascinated by one simple question. Why do some people absolutely love coming to work while someone sitting just 20 feet away can't wait to retire? It's the same organization, the same leadership, they have the same mission, but they're having a completely different experience. That question became my doctoral dissertation. I analyzed responses from more than 625,000 federal employees across the United States. Not 20 interviews, not just one company, more than 500,000 people. And what I discovered challenged decades of management thinking. Back in the 1950s, a psychologist named Frederick Herzberg introduced the two-factor theory, which is also known as the motivation-hygiene theory. This theory became one of the foundations of modern human resources management. Herzberg and his team argued there were two different worlds. One that creates satisfaction through things like achievement, purpose, recognition, and growth. The other simply prevents dissatisfaction. Things like a decent salary, reasonable policies, competent supervision, and safe working conditions. The assumption became if we eliminate complaints, people will automatically become satisfied. That kind of makes sense, right? Well, except that's just not what the data showed. When I analyzed one of the largest employee data sets ever assembled, it turned out that everything mattered. Achievement mattered as well as recognition, leadership, policy, salary, and communications. Employees, they don't divide their lives into neat little management theories. They experience work as one complete story. Every conversation, every decision, policy, every interaction, it all counts. Leadership is not a collection of isolated moments, it's a larger ecosystem. And this is where management becomes something much deeper. Human beings were created for meaningful work. The opening chapters of Genesis describe humanity working before the fall, not just because work was punishment, but because purpose was a part of creation. The problem wasn't work, it was what eventually surrounded work: conflict, confusion, pride and ego, politics, and distrust. Now, thousands of years later, we've become incredibly sophisticated with artificial intelligence, cloud computing, and global organizations. Yet, we're still fighting many of the same leadership problems our ancestors faced. People don't flourish when systems become more complicated than the mission they're supposed to serve. So sometimes organizations accidentally become the obstacles to the very purpose they were created to accomplish. That raises an uncomfortable question. How often do we do this in our own lives? When life gets difficult, should we buy another planner or another productivity app? What about another training course or one more strategy in that new self-help book? Maybe what we really need is less distraction, less comparison, less unnecessary complexity. Because growth is not always about adding. Sometimes growth begins with subtraction. Remove fear, remove pride, remove resentment, and remove excuses. The goal isn't becoming someone else, it's removing everything preventing you from becoming who you already have the potential to be or who you already are. Now, tomorrow morning, whether you're leading a Fortune 500 company, a classroom, a church, your family, or simply yourself, don't ask, how do I motivate people? Ask something much harder. What obstacle have I created that doesn't need to exist? Because leadership isn't measured by the number of programs you launch, it's measured by the barriers you remove. Now, my research taught me something I never expected. People rarely quit meaningful work. They quit environments that make meaningful work unnecessarily difficult. And maybe, just maybe, the same is true for life itself. The happiest people aren't those who have everything. They're often the people who have removed everything that keeps them from what matters the most. That's something worth thinking about. I'm Dr. Hayes. This is Holy Sorta. If this conversation challenged your thinking, please subscribe. Share it with someone who leads others. And remember, question everything, grow intentionally, because truth still rocks and light still leads, but unfortunately, sometimes faith ain't pretty. I'll see you next time. Be good.
A nation founded on faith. Now we're divided. We're not as holy as we used to be, but truth still rocks. Light still leads. This is Holy Sorta.